Hello, hello, welcome.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Like I said in my message in Instagram earlier today, happy May to everybody. Um, First of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me.
Mr. MC Stormy. DJ MC Stormy.
Something like that.
Yeah. Before we get into your story,
Yes.
you told me on the phone that we should probably talk about what's happened in the last 48 hours.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I think anybody who is as big, as important as MC Conrad was, needs to...
Fly high, Mr. Conrad.
Yes. If you don't know, MC Conrad was a very popular and very important pivotal MC in the drum and bass scene, jungle drum and bass scene. Started very early on. I would like to add, on behalf of American drum and bass scene, for us, he was pivotal because it was the first time that we heard an MC that rhymed in the style that was similar to American MCs.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, it's not necessarily that we understood him more, but it was definitely like there was more of a linking, like, oh shit, like now I understand what you're doing with your bars and how you're fitting between the beats.
It's more half-time delivery.
Yeah, because there was a lot of double tongue guys, and that for us was completely new. So it's just kind of like, how are they doing that, But that's not the style that Conrad had. Conrad had a very beautiful voice. He had a beautiful voice.
Incredible.
There were moments where he would, get me close to tears just from his voice.
Yeah. Definitely.
Especially when he was on point. And God, he worked a lot. Like, I mean, it was constant. I was looking at his trajectory, and he was involved in so many classic fucking tunes out there.
Yeah,
man.
crazy.
As an MC, what would you like to say about him?
Just what a shock it is. I mean, obviously recently, again, our PMC Fats recently as well. I mean,
oh my God, yeah.
There's MCs, but those two, I don't like to categorize people too much, but those two, just energy and soul-wise, what they brought is immense. Obviously, they're going to be immortalized for their music, and MC Fats is immortalized on the daily. But I just think that the influence, and I hope that we find... Well, there's still the guys out there, you still got your mooses and stuff, but yeah, no one did it
No, there's no comparison.
Yeah, there's no comparison.
Every artist does their thing.
It's so different. But no one did it quite like Conrad yet.
No.
And just the origination. It's like when I found out, and we messaged each other yesterday, and you were saying the same thing. The moment I heard the news that it happened, I just went back to being in my mate's Golf GTI Mark II, about 17, 18 years old, just flipping out, just about the musicality and the delivery and the energy. And for me as an MC, I wouldn't like to say, you try not to model yourself on anyone too much, but he was, I would say, the first MC that I really heard and thought, wow. He was the first MC I think that really inspired me to consider MCing, definitely.
Wow.
Definitely.
That's huge, man.
Yeah.
I'd like to give a little story, a short story, that no one knows about MC Conrad. And just to show you how he was as a person, I was able to meet Conrad at Sun and Bass, I don't know, 5-6 years ago or something like that. I'm good friends with Paradox. Shout out to you, Dev. Hope you're doing well. I know these moments are rough, man. I know these moments are rough, bro. I'm with you, man. I should probably give you a shout, man, because I know these moments are not easy. But yeah, and we usually link up at that festival, Paradox and I and Seba and a bunch of other people. And that day, I remember he was arriving at the airport, and he told me, "Hey, Serge, let's meet up after I do my sound check, and we can go grab a bite, something." And I was like, "Okay." So I head over to the venue where he was performing to wait for him to finish, doing sound check and stuff. And when I first got there, I saw Conrad, and I never met the man. But of course, it was like, holy shit, MC Conrad's here. Oh my God. But I know how to.
I'd be pretty starstruck.
I know how to respect too, so I was just kind of quiet.
Hold it down.
And I walked up to them, and not to them because Paradox was behind his equipment. And Conrad goes to me. He's like, "Hey, I don't think you should be here." And I turned to him. I was like, "Oh, hi. I'm Aries. I'm a friend of Paradox." And Conrad goes, "Yeah, that's great, man. But the show's not starting till later, so really, there's no reason for you to be here. It's cool, man. Just you can go ahead and go and come back later."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh no, you don't understand. I'm friends with Paradox, and I'm supposed to meet him here." And at that moment, I think Paradox notices that Conrad is saying this to me, and he's like, hey, he's with me, he's cool. He's like, "Oh, okay." From that moment on, Conrad treated me like one more of the crew.
Yeah.
Which I totally respect, because it was like he was taking care of his friends. He was taking care, I understand these people are very popular. It can be tiring.
I think when you have that level of raw talent, in a certain way, you've got to put a little bit of defense up around you.
Yeah, exactly.
You get to that kind of level.
Exactly. So I was able to see him doing a little mic check too, and got to know him a little bit. So Paradox needed to, he wanted to hear one track, how it was sounding in his monitors. So he goes back up there after he says hello to me and stuff, and he's doing the sound check with his final track, and sitting on the grass. And Conrad comes and sits next to me.
Yeah.
And this is where the beautiful part comes. He goes, we're just listening to him and bopping our heads. Breaks coming off of Paradox's Amiga sounding fucking crazy.
As always. And
Conrad looks to me and he goes, "Ain't he amazing?" And I was like, yeah, Dev is it's next level, man. This guy, he's a very important element of this scene.
Yeah.
And
I say a temple even more than a pillar.
Yeah, he's a template as well, man. And Conrad says to me, he's like, "Yeah, he just doesn't get as much respect as he should get." And when he said that, I turned to him and I looked at him and I thought, "You're Conrad."
Yeah.
And you're saying that about Paradox.
Yeah.
That shows how humble he is, how much he cared about his friends, how much he respected the art.
Yeah.
And that stayed with me. I was like, holy shit, if Conrad, I think that. I know a lot of people think that about Paradox, but to have someone like Conrad think like that about another artist in the scene, after having seen that artist perform, I don't know, 100 times.
I think it shows you the level of his musical integrity at all times.
Yeah. It's a beautiful story.
And I think that's what made him such a great, because he was in that zone.
Yeah, he seemed to be very, not critical, but aware of, what was good out there, what was worth spending energy on.
Yeah.
That's what I took away from it. We will miss him
terribly.
And hopefully he inspired some new artistry, some new artists out there that can bring next levels.
Yeah, a cool tool that any new and up and coming MCs out there, make sure you go and look up his music, and make sure you introduce him to any other people coming into the game.
Yep. I couldn't have said it better, man.
Definitely.
Thanks, Tom. Tom.
Yes.
MC Stormy. First question. I'm about to read your bio as I always do, because it just helps us to get to know you.
It's an easier way to start off and create questions.
Yeah. Where did MC Stormy come from?
So this is a random one. I got my first job, part-time job. I think I was 16, nearly 17, and it was in a pizza restaurant, and it was a kind of open style restaurant, and in the middle of the pizza you had the whole chef's area where they made the pizzas and the pizza ovens. And it was a tradition in this restaurant that the chefs would give the new waiters their nicknames. Because usually, if you worked in catering, the kind of war between front of house and kitchen and the whole politics.
That is funny.
And we had our uniform was like a white polo shirt with the logo of the pizzeria on it, and then black smart trousers, like suit trousers. And I was very tall, and I marched up and down with a tray in my hand. So they called me the Stormtrooper. Yeah, because I was like knocking into things, and big and gangly. So I was the Stormtrooper.
Oh my God,
and then that just
hilarious.
then sometimes they called me Troops and that, and it just got shortened down to Storms, and then everyone just started calling me Stormy. And then I guess from sort of 17 in my local town, that became my name.
Oh, okay.
And then I started DJing. I mean, I started DJing around 17. But I think I started getting DJing more seriously like around 18, 19. I started doing little performances and stuff in local pubs there.
Okay.
I thought I got to give myself a name.
Yeah.
And just sitting in a pub, my mates were like, "You got one." And so yeah, that was it. It just sort of continued.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, and I used to think, because like sometimes every now and then I meet someone, they make a joke and you're Stormy, you think you're hard, or you're
Right.
But no, I have to explain the story, because it's not like I was like, yeah, I'm going to give myself a really cool artist name.
Yeah,
What sounds intense? Stormy sounds intense.
Bro, I think you need to make yourself a t-shirt, man. Stormtrooper, man. You gotta go back to your origins, man.
Yeah.
That's
shout out to Gary, the chef, and a big influence as I was growing up. He used to take me out clubbing. That he came up when people came up with the nicknames with I think it was Chris. So out to you guys.
Wow, man, that's sick. Shout out to you guys for sure. Wow, man, that's a great story, man. Sometimes like DJ names come from the stupidest places, but sometimes they're good stories, man. So I was gonna ask you another question, but I think we'll leave it for a little bit, because I'm sure we're gonna have a lot to talk about today, man. So I'm trying to cover it. There's a lot coming from you. I'll just say, for those of you who don't live in Spain or have never come here, MC Stormy is a guy who's been involved in the scene for fucking ever. And, I'll add to that you have been able to deal with all kinds of characters in this scene and continue pushing forward. And you're still fucking here, man. Anyway, from London to Barcelona. That's how it starts. Yeah. Stormy has a long list of performances with jungle, drum and bass, and dubstep masters such as Remarc, Fabio, Spirit, N-Type, DJ Hybrid, Bladerunner, Mala, Sully, Aries?
Aries.
I never know Aries.
Yeah.
I never know how to say his name. I think it's because of the Spanish thing. Aries. Dilinja, Hatcha. Wow, Hatcha. Fava, Furney, Technical Itch, just to name a few for real.
Yeah.
Like your lineup of performances with people is crazy.
Yeah.
Because here you've literally just named just drum and bass and dubstep people, but you've also been involved in other shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Any of those that you want to have a line on right now? Like Fabio, Remarc, Spirit, and Type. Any of these artists that you'd like to say something about right now, or no?
More than anything, that just it is a true rule. Most of the greats, like we're just talking about the humbleness of Conrad. It's like most of the greats are just really nice people, and the nicest thing about working or performing with those people is just they're really nice people.
Yeah. And
just really help you feel relaxed and get in the zone and have an amazing time doing sets with them.
I couldn't agree with you more, man. So this guy knows how, where, and when to spray his bars in the dance. Coming from the UK with the experience as a DJ MC, MC Stormy arrived in Barcelona in 2000. So first question, why did you come here?
Originally, my sister was living out here. She was working as an English teacher. I think she'd been out at least a couple of years. And at the time, I was working for a restaurant in London. It's a corporation restaurant, so I'm not going to give their name for advertising. But basically, I got sort of proper chunks of paid holiday. And I'd been working through the year and I hadn't taken much holiday out, so I had a whole month off. My sister was like, well, why don't you come out here and experience Barcelona? She was loving it. It's an amazing place. And she's always contacted me saying how great it was. So I was like, okay. And I came out here for a whole month. And like I said, because my sister was actually living here and living with real local people from here in her apartment, I really felt I came here. I didn't just do the tourist Barcelona thing. I came here and experienced the life. And right around then, as you know, because you arrived not long after, it was paradise.
It was different, yeah.
Yeah, the economy,
How
everything
old were
was amazing. I was 21 when I first came over, and that was for like and I say I came here for a month. and I went back to, well, just outside London in my hometown, and I sat down in my local, had a pint, and I just thought, nah, this isn't it. The life for me is over there.
Isn't that crazy?
I just had a gut feeling.
Yeah.
And then I took a job working in the countryside just so I could save money, and and then I think about sort of 10 months later, I came back and fully relocated.
What's your sister's name?
Hannah, out to Hannah.
Shout to Hannah. You changed Tom's life.
Yes, thank you for starting off the whole tree.
Okay, so coming from the UK, experience in 2000 same year, big performance in the city with the main collectives that started Barcelona drum and bass scene. Sky Funk, shout out to Pilar.
Yeah, to Pilar.
Essential drum and bass, shout out to
Man like Uzi.
God, I couldn't remember. What was Adam? No,
Adam. Yeah.
Adam. Barcelona, shout out to Albert Maceta.
Yeah.
Boo, DJ Boo.
Yeah. Out to Sana.
Yes, Sano.
Out to How Kim.
Oh my God, yeah, Jesus. There's
a lot of guys there. We could go on.
Yeah, seriously. There's so many of you. Later, he created Rinse and Roll. Remember that?
Yeah, man. That was fun time.
The first radio show dedicated to jungle drum bass Barcelona, which was active for more than 3 years. Wow, it was active for that long. So you asked me to get involved with that.
Yeah.
But I wasn't there for 3 years. How long was I involved?
I think a couple.
Yeah?
I think I did about first year on my own.
Really?
Year and a bit, yeah.
Wow, I don't remember that. I think I was in it. I came in at the end, not at the beginning. Because that transformed into the next project.
Yeah.
So it was towards the end when but I think I was there with you maybe a year, maybe.
At least a year.
I don't remember it being longer than that. I do remember you doing a show before I joined.
Yeah.
In fact, I think you even had invited me to perform.
I think you played a couple of times.
Yeah. I learned so much in that show, man. I was so eager.
Well, I think we both learned a lot. It's a happy memory of learning a lot of how to really, like, not master, but get your head around radio and then just get into it and learning about it.
I'll never forget the most embarrassing interview that we did with fucking Brian Bell.
Yeah, his book.
Yeah, that was a horrible interview, man. Today I would never do it like that. It was so bad. The questions were pretty corny.
Yeah.
He seemed to, the sound in his voice, we did it over the phone, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But it was almost like, why am I doing this? But I never met the guy, but he seems to be like a really nice guy. Yeah. Everyone loves him.
The other thing was, I remember that was like around 2003, 4 or something, and back then.
No, it was after, man.
Maybe
I arrived in 2004.
Did you?
It had to be like 2006
or something like that. But yeah, back then the telecom was just getting up to what it is now. So even then there was like this delay as well. Like you'd speak and then, get the satellite delay, and then it was a tricky one, man. It was a hard interview to do.
Yeah, seriously. Wait, I just realized I hadn't asked you. So how was Barcelona scene before Rinse and Roll? Those years where you were performing with Sky Funk, with Barcelona, with Essential, how would you describe that scene? Those years.
I was lucky because I managed to. There was a shortage of MCs, obviously. I came over here originally to DJ, out of all things, but I had a friend who was a good influence back before I moved over here. Out to MC Epic, out to Chris Childs. And he was really good, and I just sort of used to kind of spar with him when we were after the rave kind of thing, and so I came in originally to DJ, but with a little bit of MC knowledge, and I don't know what it was really. There was no MCs, so I started with Pilar and Skyfunk. I started working for them,
okay,
and kind of got resident there. But once I got going with Skyfunk,
so how did you meet her?
That was through my sister's partner at the time, Marcel, who was a part of the original roots of Manu Chao's band.
Uh-huh.
And he just said to me, I'd been there, it was the second summer there, and he said to me, look, I've got a friend called Pilar. She used to live in London. She does like bass culture music, if you like. Mm-hmm. I can give you a phone number and get a job with her.
And she was doing events here already?
Yeah, she had, they had, in Club Japan, which is now Breezes or something on Parallel.
I heard about that, but I never.
Yeah.
Never seen
I can't remember the name of the night. It was Sky Funk was the organisation. I can't remember. There was a name of the night. I can't remember.
And what kind of music was it?
Mainly jungle drum and bass. Sometimes we do like garage and a bit of hip hop and stuff, but it was mainly drum bass influence. That's what Pilo was really into at the time as well.
Yeah.
And Baby G was playing. Shouts out to Baby G. And and from that, the other collectors start to say, "Look, we need an MC. Do you want to come and MC?" And
yeah,
my only negative thing about it was, I think at the time, those three organisations were quite separate.
Yeah.
And and I was lucky enough not to be involved in that politics, and I got to play with all three of them, and from that had regular gigs and almost an income. So I'm very blessed and not complaining. But it was a shame that it was a bit kind of, I think.
I mean, that is a plus when you come from the outside. It's easier to get to know everybody. I think collectors that are born within the city kind of stick to them. That's you see that everywhere.
Yeah,
I saw it in
true.
New York. I saw it. I see it in the UK. Lots of cities that I've been to, it's kind of a thing that happens. So how would you describe the music? Because when I arrived in 2004, it was jump up. It's just straight up jump up. I mean, to be fair, I'm not criticizing jump up. It's just, I think that was towards the end of the jump up era, and I was already moving on. So for me, I was like, oh no, they're behind musically, And when I arrived, it was like DJ Hype performing here, Pendulum. Who else was it?
MC with Pendulum.
Yeah.
Yeah. I should put them on the list.
Hive came. He wasn't playing jump up, but yeah, it was like all the local DJs were playing just straight up jump up. I mean, there was not much variety. I remember Maceta used to play a bit more variety, and I can't really think of.
Maceta was always a bit more jungly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, I remember him being more like liquid.
And Tech Step as well.
Tech Step.
Yeah. I mean, when I first started, I was lucky. The good thing about Pilar is she had lived in, I'm not sure where in London, one of the boroughs in London. I think it might have been Brixton.
Okay.
But anyway, she was somewhere that was, at the time, had a lot of black influence music there. And she came back with a real knowledge.
Yeah.
And I can say that a lot of the early parties with Sky Funk, we were booking people like Ronnie Size, Smith and Mighty. I'm getting old now, I can't remember them all. But the point I'm trying to make is that party had a good grasp, and I think it had a good variation. But for me, essentially, even though run by, Uzi had his thing, but the trouble was that, again, there was a very sort of, it was very new to the local people here, and at that time, techno was huge. And I'd argue that reggae and dub isn't as amazingly well established and big as it is now here. So they really only had that, and I think if it was that much divided at that point. If you weren't foreign and you're from here, you very rarely played jungle. Apart from Mazzy was a great example because he really knew his bacon or whatever you call it. Yeah. Knew his artist.
Yeah, it's just I asked because when I moved here, I didn't know what was here except for Barcelona.
Yeah.
Because I found them on the Bajo Presión, the forum that used to exist in Spain for drum and bass heads. And I knew them before anybody else when I moved here. Thankfully, they had me play and stuff like that, and I was able to meet people.
Shouts out to Frantic, I forgot about that.
Oh, yeah, Frantic, for sure.
Big up the Chile Massive.
Frantic.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's move on. Later created Rinse and Roll, the first radio show dedicated to jungle drum and bass in Barcelona, which was active for more than 3 years. This radio show gave rise to the foundation of his own collective, Nube Nueve. Shout out to Tina for that name, because I still feel like that's one of the best names
ever. Yeah, out to Tina on that one.
For a party. Nube Nueve, which is Cloud 9. Fucking love it. It just looks good too, man.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Shout out to Tina, by the way. What can you say about Nube Nueve?
That was good, man.
It was good.
Yeah.
Was that your first promotion?
I think so.
I feel like it was because
I was doing some stuff with Finn.
But those were your events. That's when you booked me at
at,
Zentraus.
Not Zentraus, the other
No,
place.
not Zentraus.
Sidecar.
Sidecar.
Yeah.
What was that name of that party that you guys did?
I can't remember. You know, we did a summer together, and there was me, Finn, and a couple of other guys in the peripherals, but I can't remember. We called the night La China.
Oh yeah.
That was also with MC Beto. We just did a few things,
Right.
and Max, because they were kind of transversing from the Barcino to the drum and bass.
Yep.
But I can't remember just because it didn't go on for that long. Because then soon after that, I got more involved with live music, and I found did live music more studio time, more band practices and stuff. I had less time to be a promoter.
Yeah, you didn't add that in the bio. Why is that not in the bio? None of your live stuff. Because you did quite a bit.
Yeah, no, I mean I've covered it there. I mean that's my bio more tailored towards
clubs,
jungle, drum and bass, and clubs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. How was that experience performing live?
Yeah, I learnt so much, so much. Yeah, priceless, absolutely priceless. And at the same time, it was just really good because I was new in Spain, and a lot of the gigs were all around Spain, and just getting to know Spain is such an amazing country.
Yeah.
And being able to not obviously doing it for free, and being able to, I mean, not getting paid. That's what I mean, not cost me any money. Going to be able to go to all these places, and yeah, and every week was in a sort of different part of Spain, and yeah, amazing time, man. Really
Still
amazing.
in contact with those people?
Yes, I am. I've actually got to give a call out to Beto. I'm hopefully going to go down and see them. They're down south, past Tarragona. Max, I haven't spoken to recently. He's doing, he's DJing disco now. He played at the Glove Party recently, I think, or coming up. La Paloma, that's reopening.
Yeah.
And the 08001 guys, I see Julian every now and I haven't seen him for a couple of years, you know, or maybe before COVID. We're in touch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing ended too sour. The only guy, the last minute experience, the drummer, yeah, that was a shame, that project. That was my only regret because it was really big. Just in terms of level, we had DJ Panko from Ojos de Bruco, and we had Escanloso Exposito. This guy is an amazing hip hop guy. Shouts out to you, bro. And yeah, and I could go on, but like everyone in the band was like masters, you know, they've been doing it since they were like kids and shit. Like the sax players and the pianist and the bass player.
How did you get involved with all these projects? I mean, I understand how maybe later on how everyone kind of got to know you.
It's all thanks to Jungle, bro, because people came to my shows, emceeing here, and then either friends or the guys running the bands or whatever, or the band leaders would say, right, I've seen you playing at so-and-so, we'd really like to try and incorporate.
Holy shit.
For me, it was timing. You think, I arrived here, my first sort of recce, I think 2001, and I officially moved here like around 2002. So for me, it was like, I mean, bassline culture music was exploding in the UK as it had been since the early 90s already. And it was just sort of into that explosion. We say really musically, culturally, it is kind of, it's caught up a lot now, but back then it was sort of 10 years behind. So I sort of arrived here, and the first time I was here, I kind of saw what was happening in England on a smaller scale, obviously, but that same excitement, explosion. And in the dance, you could obviously play good music, but you could play anything we wanted from any era, and people were just really interested in absorbing it like sponges.
Yeah.
And I think people got excited about that culture, so a lot of the bands, there was a demand that, you know, like now in UK, the States has been a history of MCs like rock, hip hop and stuff for a long time. So that sort of, you know, for an example, sort of Rage Against the Machine, that kind of, that you know, that had been going on for a while. Fusion. But again, all the bands, you know, they were mainly rock. They all started saying, "Oh, why don't we start getting MC?" Right. So it was like there was a lot of work just because it was a good time to be an MC or a DJ in bass music culture. Right. I think.
What was the hardest part of it for you back then? Do you remember anything about it being a struggle?
Language barrier. That's the only thing, because when I first arrived.
Were there contracts involved in all of this?
With 08001, 08001, it's always a mouthful. That was, that we had contracts, yeah. But yeah, that's a long story.
Yeah. No, you don't have to get into anything like that.
Not a bad story, just a long one of why
it
didn't sort of progress.
Yeah.
We had offered to be signed from Sony, but the owner. The trouble was we were an 18-piece band. So you got to imagine anywhere we go, the rider, the hotel, the
that's
food.
all you have to say.
Was just ridiculous.
Can even imagine. Yeah, for promoters, that's a rough.
Absolutely ridiculous. So, and it wasn't that we weren't getting paid our worth. It was more just trying to sustain us as a group. And Sony kind of came along and said, "Look, we'll take you on, but you got to give us a big chunk because your expenses are through the roof." And long story short, I don't think the guy who run the band could really kind of meet a middle ground with them. So it never happened. And I think slowly after that,
it's not easy.
Where they made the band smaller and then yeah.
It takes away from what made it work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's always the big if we just gone with it, there's a good chance.
What lessons did you learn that you feel like to this day you can trace back to that experience, the live experience?
If you're putting your energy into a live project, make sure you have a real say as to like future direction and what you want to happen, because performing with DJs and drum and bass, it's hard to explain. It's not any less passion, but it's something I do. I can go to a gig. I just need half an hour before just to maybe listen to on the way on the train, or if I'm with my partner when we're in the car, just listen to some tunes to get into the mindset. But live music, you really have to put time in, bro. It's studio time. It's hours. And then the thing is there's more money in live music. So yeah, there's always some guy, when there's more money, there's always someone in the picture, woman or man, trying to get a few more notes. And I just feel if I'd had more I had contracts in terms of releases, but if I had more contracts in terms of say and input. Yeah, I think at least one of two of those projects might still be going now.
Yeah.
But when they folded, because I had no reins to anything, I had to just kind of be like, okay, that's over.
Yeah, to be fair to you though, man, you went from being 20 years old with barely any experience to being 20 something, and then suddenly having a shitload of work and exciting projects, and in a country that is extremely bureaucratic.
Yes, it is.
And not your first language.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you got to be fair to yourself. You did the best you could during that era. And I'm sure you learned tons of shit,
I think that's what shaped me and, like I said, gave me, I'm still going now. I think it's because of those early 3 or 4 years of what I went through and experience early on. That's the reason why I'm still here.
Right.
And what I learned from those 3 or 4 years in the live music industry, I think.
Yeah. So going back to Nube Nueve, Cloud 9, what did you take from that?
Inspiration, because that was the first time I can remember our whole thesis was like, we want to be more on the jungle side, we want to be a bit different, and just it gave me hope, because it wasn't that much long run, because like I said, soon the band started taking off, and it wasn't I really wanted to carry on Nube 9, but I didn't really have time. It was more that but the sort of year and a half we had starting off, we hit the ground running, and straight away it wasn't that difficult to get people to the parties and stuff. It just gave me inspiration that, we don't have to just do tech step here and jump up. There is, the public, the local people are open to, because credits half the people in Nueve, half of them were local people, and the other half was us kind of foreign guys.
Yeah.
So that, for me, that was quite inspiring in that sense. Just as a short mini project, but a real sort of
it was good
catalyst into cracking on.
Yeah, it was. I thought it was great. I mean, for me, it was the first time I did any kind of promotion. It was the first time, and I learned a lot watching you do things, and I did a lot of the artwork, which I absolutely hated. But
we all look back at our old work, bro. I look back off of my old work, and I just cringe.
No, I cringed a lot, but I learned so much.
Yeah.
You
No, I'm very lucky. I'm not going to say names, but a very famous person is asking me to do a song at the moment, and he's asked me to send him some references. And I'm just looking back, going cringe. I can't send him that. Oh,
right.
No, I'll send him that.
Of course. Yeah, I know that feeling. Jesus. Anyway, so the radio show gave rise to the foundation of his own collective Nube 99, carrying out numerous events. Later on, he went on to become a regular MC for Jungle Jungle, one of Barcelona's biggest and most blah, blah, blah.
Biggest and successful running nights for many years
That's
in
enough.
Barcelona.
My ego has enough.
Blah, blah, blah,
I don't need any more ego.
Big up the Jungle Sing crew.
Big up to everyone who came to all our parties.
It was a nice big dream.
Thank you, man. Stormy has also been a member of Barcino Collectives. Okay, so you do talk about it. Who makes electronic music with world music in a sound system format, touring Spain and Europe. Where in Europe did you get to go?
Berlin.
Oh, nice.
I mean, Germany, we did like a 2-week tour there. We hit 9 places in Germany.
That's beautiful.
Italy, northern Italy a bit. We spent a couple of weeks in Italy doing north, mid and south of Italy. And then, met a lot in Spain. I was lucky with Barcino because they were already big and established. And I joined them. The only downer was I was joining them at the end of their career, really. But they'd done an album that had been quite successful. So they already had these sort of circuits.
Okay, they had a little following.
Yeah. And a couple of, I think they were a band of 8 originally, and a couple dropped out. So I was one of the 2 that kind of joined in.
Yep.
And added my parts to it, but it meant that there was already a kind of circuit ready to go, which they'd been working for a few years.
Right. After that, Stormy joined the group 08001 08001, which is a area code in Barcelona.
Yeah.
Multicultural group with 18 members from 10 different countries with whom he toured all over Europe. That sounds crazy.
It was.
Stormy was also part of collectives Below, bringing dubstep to Spain since its inception and making up the ground force team of DMZ residency in Spain. So every time I hear the word Below, I get depressed.
Because they had to finish.
No, not because they had to finish. That too. But because I could have been part of that project. And I fucked it up for myself. That was a lesson for me. I learned a big lesson.
You think so?
Yeah, for sure. Because I was being considered one of the possible members for the collective.
Yeah, Manu said that.
And then
Because Moonshine and Manu reached out to you before a lot of people.
Yeah, and then I fucked up, and a big learning curve, man. I basically got jealous of great kids, great fucking artists that came along and joined the group, but I was like, why are they getting more love than I am? Like when I'm one of the first people, blah 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 blah.
You did the first dubstep party.
I did the first dubstep party, but I wasn't the first to play dubstep in Barcelona. I mean, Howie Roach and 23 Hertz, they're the fucking godfathers of dubstep here, and they're the ones who turned me on. I imagine they turned you on
to it,
and so I basically was like, I don't give myself credit so much for that. Doing the first big drum and bass dubstep event in Barcelona, because even though we did do it, I feel like it was only because we were at the right place at the right time. If it wasn't us, it was gonna be somebody else. You understand what I'm saying? I feel like I would have given myself more credit if we would have followed on doing big dubstep events, but we didn't. It was kind of like a love-hate relationship. Lower it a little bit more. A little bit. I'll put it for you.
Hello.
Yeah, there you go. So, enough about me. Below, man.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
That was crazy. It's like you said.
Shout out to Howie and 23 Hertz and everyone.
And Moonshine.
Cardo Pusher
lives
around the corner from me.
Shout out to Sata B, out to Toughest.
Moonshine.
There's so many. Out to Cram.
Holy shit,
out
man.
To Gasparov.
Oh,
man. It was a big group. Big group of people.
Huge group. Super talented people.
And I missed people out because not just we were 15 artists, but then the ground force behind it. There's loads of people.
So Below was basically the groundbreaking dubstep crew in Barcelona. You guys did the biggest dubstep thing here ever. I don't even think anywhere else in Spain ever had what we... In fact, I would even go as far as saying that a lot of people in Barcelona didn't even know this crazy thing that was happening there.
What dubstep was,
Not only just what dubstep was, but the crazy reggae sound system in a fucking venue that just suited it perfectly.
It was
the kind of frequencies that we were getting in there were out of this world.
It was like being at a Spanish Ford or something. You know
basically.
It was just a stupid sound system in a tiny room.
The guys, Manu and Moonshine, were very well connected, as well as Howie and 23 Hertz. They were well connected with the dubstep scene in the UK. So it was basically happening kind of at the same time as what was happening in the UK. And we're talking about 2006, 2007, basically when dubstep was starting to really, really blow up.
Then Howie and Rue started producing around 2006-07.
Yep.
Then 2008 Chorizo Show, and then 2009 bang.
It's shocking to me that they stopped working.
It still blows my mind to this day,
It blows my mind because their dubstep was really fucking good, man.
Yeah.
Really, really good.
And they kind of, the ending of Bilo wasn't a bad thing. It just, ending of Bilo was just for people, different lives and stuff. But for some reason, Howie and Rue kind of took that as like, Bilo's ending's a chapter, then I think we should stop what we're doing as well. It's a good time to stop and quit while we're ahead. But I think that was kind of a shame because I think they were really onto something.
I mean, I don't want to speak for them, but I think age is also a factor.
Yeah.
I feel like both of those people they were a lot older than everyone else around.
Yeah, and kept it very quiet. You didn't realise how old they were.
Yeah, I know.
Until I actually asked them. I'm not going to say because it's
rude. It's not important. But the point is, it's not as easy when you're much older than everyone else to have that fire in you to keep pushing something. And I also have to say, I think a major factor was also that you couldn't put the sound system in that room anymore, the police and all that. And so without the sound system, you were just not going to have that kind of reaction from the crowd. But that was huge, man.
Yeah,
that was huge. Even the design of the flyer was fucking
out to Saturday,
legendary.
Out to Saturday on the design.
Legendary.
Sick, bro.
I'm sure he thought it was basic, but it fucking stayed in our minds. You know what I mean?
There's I don't know if it's still there, but there's a street. It was there for years, and because I was tall, there's the days we used to do the postering. Before Instagram and all that shite. And we used to go up doing the posters, and because I was tall, there was this one spot outside a skating bar. I can't remember the name of the skating bar now, just down now the Rambler. And because I got really high, I just did a whole series. And they were up there for 10 years after the party. They were still up there because it was just on some building was trying to be sold. Those posters were sick.
From those, the Below nights, is there any one night that stands out in your head, and why?
Well, the obvious one would be the first night, just because we were Loafer, Sergeant Pokes, and Hijack, I think it was.
Hijack was crazy.
He's an animal. Oh my lord.
Crazy, man.
Yeah. I don't get it wrong, Screen's a bad man, but you need to know about Screen's brother Hijack, my God.
Oh my God.
Murderation, slaughtered. And that first night, just being able to play with them in terms of excitement, because it all being so new, and that sort of with the three of the sort of current head honchos, and then just realizing the ridiculousness of that sound system in that room and what the next sort of year was going to be like, the excitement. So that was the first big memory. And then I think just before Sevi pulled it all apart, which is another story, was the anniversary. We had Mala, Pokesy, and one other guy, I can't remember who, one of the massive guys, and just doing the sound check with Mala in room 1 in Razzmatazz, and just to watch his thoroughness. Doesn't matter if he had the best engineer in the world. It's like, I'm going to do this. And what's the point? It was, I'm just going to be stereotypical, it was a Spanish engineer. He wasn't so good. And Mala was like, it wasn't condescending. It was just like, don't worry, bro, I've got this. And there's a 32K sound system in that room 1. And very often it's never quite right.
No.
And that day, Mala went round and he, even to isolate,
it.
even to go and to get some polystyrene foam to get under the plates to really get no signal. And that was the best I've ever heard that room sound. And yeah, just that moment. It was kind of the moment, because after then it slowly started to disperse. But that moment of realization of being in a room 1,500 people with Mal and all these guys and the whole B-Low crew there, just like the sense of achievement from starting from a little 70-person club to, you know, being main room size. That was an exciting moment. And then equally, when we did the loft on the other side of Erasmus with Vivek, Mahler and Pokes, that was... Yeah, that was sick. Vivek's fucking... Excuse my French. Special.
No, you can curse.
Shit.
Anyway, back to the ending part of your bio. Stormy's last live music project was with a jazz hip-hop fusion band, The Last Minute Experience. I had actually forgotten about this.
Yeah.
With whom he toured throughout Spain. In 2016, Stormy was one of the founding members of Subconscious, jungle drum and bass collective, focusing on bringing pure jungle drum and bass to Barcelona, booking artists such as DJ Hybrid and Technical Itch. Stormy was joined by Morwena Junglist in 2018, who helped fully establish the brand and as Barcelona's home for jungle music. In 2021, they created Big Kharma, pushing bass music, particularly 140, as a medicine and antidote. As well as being an MC, he is currently returning to the decks, going back to his original DJ roots as his residence at Subconscious and Big Kharma parties. So...
Big shout out to Moina, by the way. My love. Salute.
Yeah, big shout out to you.
Moina Junglist.
Soon I'm going to get you here. I didn't want to say anything, but you need to come here and speak your truth. Right. So I was going to ask you the first question that I have been asking every single time to every guest. But you just told me before. I was going to ask you the experience of writing a bio and how horrible that experience is, and how do you go about it? But you told me that I wrote it.
I was really lucky because you wrote on an original version, and then Moena's touched up a couple of times since. So I haven't had to go through that.
I don't
writing in the third person.
Writing that at all. Really hard. But anyway, let's move on. It's just funny, man. Because when you said that to me, I just it's like when did that happen? But anyway, Subconscious. How did it become Subconscious?
So originally, I think it was Soundshifter, Refold, and Sam. I forget his DJ name. Samurai. They found a little venue up in Sants, I think, and they weren't called Subconscious the Collective, but they had a night they wanted to call Subconscious, and I think. Only did like one or two things there, and a long story short, the venue was closing down, and I don't think it took off there. And in the meantime, I started thinking about doing a radio show. At that point, wasn't even necessarily thinking about doing a night, but just start doing a radio show with the thesis of getting together who are naturally the best artists in Barcelona, kind of like rinse and roll, and just getting a good rotation of jungle drum and bass music, sort of Barcelona born. And it was kind of at that point, because obviously I asked Adrian who wanted to be involved, and Soundshifter, and they were like, look, we had a night that we were calling Subconscious. It's a really good name, and I was like, yeah, because I was thinking it's one of those ones you look up Subconscious in Google and a million things come up. Yeah. So for that reason, I was a bit, and I thought about, you know what, it really is. Say what it is, and it's one of them ones. It's like Meltheads or whatever. It works. So it's just like, right, we'll just go with that. Yeah. I think it's a very effective name.
So it was it a tight group?
Initially. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So how did other people get involved?
Who
did get involved and how?
So we had Adrian, we had Chase. And then who else? I guess the radio became a sort of place where that helped unite the idea of getting together more, I think. And then it was really more those guys, myself, Turbulent. Shouts out to Turbulent, who took it seriously. Like, well, let's take this somewhere. We had Dan involved for a little bit. I don't know where he's gone now.
Dan who?
Altitude.
Oh yeah, Altitude.
But he was more of a kind of helping on the organisation side. I mean, artist-wise, that it was those kind of us cool guys. And then soon after, we were like, well, we need to involve more local people as well. So then we reached out to Chower, big up to Chower, and got him on board. That was one of Wenner's ideas for people to get on board. And then later on, much longer down the line, Bruno was like saying, look, I know this guy, Prime Bass Sound, shouts out to Prime Bass Sound. You know, we should get him involved as well. And then I think by then we sort of had about 8 or 9 of us, and we're like, right.
That's a big group.
Yeah, it's like, that's enough now.
Jesus.
So and then I think once we had that kind of group, we were like, right, let's get this out to the clubs. And again, it's right. I think it's often the right place, right time. We were just lucky because it's very hard to find a medium-sized venue in Barcelona, as you know, almost impossible.
I don't even think it exists.
Yeah. And there's this one room came up in M7, the upstairs part of this club, and it's just a nice size.
The size is great.
Yeah, and we jumped on it because it's one of those ones that's not going to be a risk. Even on a quiet night, you're not going to lose money because it's not huge. The outlay isn't huge, but the sound was good enough. It's a nice venue. It was a nice room.
I didn't think the sound was good enough, and and all I ever heard was just negative stories about the guys who run the place. So that's why we stayed away from it.
Yeah.
But the room was fucking awesome. The location was awesome.
Yeah.
Really easy to get to. The room was very picturesque.
Sound wasn't great. It was acceptable. Great. It was acceptable.
It wasn't acceptable for me, man. I was always like, this could be better, man.
Oh, we always knew that. But again, bloody COVID, bro. We used that place to kind of establish ourselves, and we were just that.
Don't get me wrong. I wasn't being picky.
Yeah, no, I agree with you though.
If anything,
we got to that point, we kind of got fed up with sound. We were like, we need to start looking not for a better club, but a club with a better sound.
No. But hear what I'm trying to say. If anything, it's more fighting the truth about Barcelona.
Yeah. It's true.
like that's just what Barcelona is.
Let's not sugarcoat it. Barcelona.
It's like there's just no matter. Look how hard these kids, these people. Artists are hungry to do something good, and they have no choice but to come to something like this. You know what I mean? Where that the people running it are fucking assholes, and you're like, well, we'll deal with this bullshit and we'll deal with this bullshit because we're so hungry to do something. And sadly, we live in a city where it's like you have to accept it. You're like, well, that's what we're doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the part that always makes me angry, and it's like it's not fair. In other cities, people like you guys or promoters like you, if you want to do something, you just do it.
The venues are there. The owners take you seriously.
You have other issues, but you're not going to have those.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the sound in that place was sad. It was just like, guys, I mean, you have a license, like there's no way you're playing 98 decibels right now. It sounds like you're playing 70. It sounds like a fucking like a gallery.
Yeah, we got our own sound engineer in there and got it up to 90.
I remember that.
We squeezed the best we could out of it.
It was better, and then the problem was then the DJs, because the limiter kept fucking
closing it down.
Yeah. What can you do, man? That's our constant fight in Barcelona.
Yeah, don't ask me how we got Tech Itch in there and pulled it off on that sound system, and it sounded half all right.
In this place that you guys just did recently. Well, we'll talk about that soon, but I do want to talk about that. You haven't told me anything about it. So experiences with Subconscious. What does now, after all these years, what does Subconscious mean to you?
It's an institution of sound, I guess. For me, it's just a representation. I mean, it's a similar feeling I always had. It's not just because I used to make a big mistake of just thinking about, Spain doesn't get it and they don't understand more the jungle drum and bass sound and the roots, and that's not true. I think now looking back on the sort of last 20 years in music in general, drum and bass jungle music in Europe in general, I think wherever you go, even in the UK, we have the more easy commercial stuff that works, that the heads and the real DJs will slag off to the hills because it's not frequencies and it's not great. And so I think for me, Subconscious more represents that stamp of, we're trying to be a flag for the people without being snobby. Trying to be a flag to people.
It's
like,
not snobby at
you
all.
like real jungle drum and bass music, this is what we do, this is what you can come for. And that's really been that's how I've kind of felt from day one arriving here 22 years ago. And I think that's what Subconscious represents, is digging for the real music.
So some tourists are in the city, right?
Yeah.
Let's not imagine they're English. From anywhere else but English, even from somewhere else in Spain. And they're like, hey, we're looking for drum and bass. Why should they come to Subconscious?
Because we take a pride in being 360, I guess, not including neuro maybe. And we like to... It's jungle influenced. I say, 'cause there's always the argument, what's jungle, what's drum and bass? I mean, jungle influence in sound and feeling is mainly... So what I'd say to a stranger come to me is you're going to get that. If you like music, you're going to get something. You're going to get some jazz. You're going to get some hip-hop vibe. You're going to get some dirty, dark corner vibe. You're going to get every sort of music you like but in a jungle drum bass format.
Yeah. And
that's, for me, that's also important for the continuity of jungle drum bass. It's like hip hop. If you are somebody who's not necessarily a music digger into music, and do you like hip hop, and they reel off a load of recent gangster rapper names to you, and they say, no, I don't really like hip hop because it's just these guys, and what they talk about is really negative and isn't really realistic to me. But obviously, if you then go and dig into, that's just that of hip hop, and you're going to dig into the rest down like there.
Yeah, for sure.
Tribe Called Quest, whatever, all these kind of people. I think it's the same with jungle drum and bass. I get annoyed with people who just play the hard, obvious stuff, because it's like, this is why I think jungle drum and bass continues to grow, because again, this is its versatility. It's multi-sampling from so many genres of music. That's why it will always have another, I don't know, like say revival, but another round, because someone get onto another sound of using another influence of style. And then that gets, like, for example, I feel right now in jungle there's a kind of garage grimy influence, and that's another 5-6 years of production and songs to come out. And I think that's why it's important for me that it is an open music, I think, and I think it's important to keep it that way.
I agree with you, man.
Yeah.
Give me a list of your favorite DJs in Barcelona.
There's a lot, not loads, but there's a few that I rate. Yourself,
besides,
goes without saying, bro.
No.
I mean, obviously, I say the guys in our crew, because I'm going to be honest, I'm not going to do a project unless I usually rate someone.
Yeah.
People like Turbulent, Chower, Prime, Soundshifter, all these guys. I mean, when people have been DJing for time, it's a big difference, because you really, and once you're really experienced DJ, you're not just saying to think about the technical side of the mechanical side of what you're doing. You've then got time to think about what journey I'm taking on the crowd tonight, what vibe the crowd is on, all these kind of things. And that's the kind of people I rate as DJs. Doesn't matter who they are, the music style. I think if you're doing that, is really important.
Why did you go back to DJing?
Lockdown. I think I've always had. I wouldn't say going back to DJing. I always had decks in my house. I started doing when I was 16.
No, but I mean, like in public.
Yeah, in terms of radio or little public shows. Lockdown. Being an MC in lockdown, it was fine for doing streams. I was able to host a lot of shows, which was great fun. But obviously, the performing element was kind of over. And you can practice MCing, but it's hard to practice MCing on your own.
Yeah.
A drum and bass MC, you need a good DJ to be able to practice with.
And you need a crowd.
Yeah, or be doing regular shows, or a crowd to, mainly because it's such a lot of trying. A good MC should always be evolving and trying new stuff out. So you always need a crowd to try that out on and trying new rhymes and new flows.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of accept for a minute, like, well, I can't do any of that. So I may as well really concentrate on the DJing again.
Yeah.
Because that was already there. And I didn't really go back to DJing in lockdown because it was lockdown, just because that's my therapy, and that's what kept me sane through lockdown.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. If I didn't have DJing during lockdown, I think I would be in even more PTSD than I am now, like a lot of people.
Yeah.
I think.
So how do you feel about that now? That you have this other avenue to express yourself?
It's funny because my heart is still fully more in MCing, from the sense that MCing is very non-political. I mean, music-wise, you turn up, you're getting booked for you, because you're getting booked. If it's a good promoter and they're compiling a right night, they're only booking you because they want you to do you and your personality, and I wouldn't say there's so much. It's not politics in DJing. It's more who's warming up, who's doing what set. It's a lot more complicated. MCing, it's just stress free. I turn up when it's fitting for me to come, whether that be at 12:30 in the evening or 5:30 at the end of the night. When it's right for me to be on, I just come on.
Yeah.
And that's a really nice freedom, I feel, in terms of just adding bits in the night. Whereas when you're DJing, it's a lot more pressure. That's your slot, that's your hour. You've got to consider the last guy that's come from, what the style he's done. If there's a big guest you're warming up for, what's right to play for them. There's a lot more to think about in terms of the performance.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love DJing, but I like MCing for its freeness. Definitely.
So you don't necessarily feel free when you're DJing?
I don't when I'm DJing one of my nights, because I'm thinking about the door and
no.
If the guest has got his drinks and
anybody who's a promoter and DJs at their own parties, you're not free when you're DJing at your own party. Forget about it. That's not real.
Yeah.
Especially if you're like a workaholic and you're in charge, like you're DJing and you're looking at what the security guard is doing over there. Yeah. In the meantime, you're looking at the amps to make sure nothing's clipping. In the meantime, you're making sure that the guest is arriving, that no one's bothering him on the walk to the stairs, and that someone's giving him free drinks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
All those things are in the back of your mind.
You're on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're not free DJing. You know what I mean? But it takes experience to know that.
Yeah. No, I mean the DJ sets I've enjoyed the most is when we've played, like we've done events at Messiah's, like country houses, raves.
Yeah.
I think that's when DJing is the most exciting.
I love it. It's very freeing.
Yeah.
So
that's when DJing feels really free, I think, at raves.
I agree with you, man.
DJing more at raves.
I agree with you. Tell me about this last event that you did. The one with Technical Itch and Hybrid and...
That was brilliant. I mean...
The good and the bad. I want to hear it all.
Mainly good. The main good part takeaway is we were very nervous having, not nervous is the wrong word, sorry. What shall I say? Cautiously excited, because we had, just as themselves as entities, we had Technical Itch and Furney put themselves forward as artists, and obviously Lady M's with Furney. They put themselves forward to because Fern's what he's doing with M's, and Tech Itch, they're big caliber and they're a pull. So it wasn't so much. They're also, I'm very lucky to say, friends. So it wasn't a nervousness in like, oh, it's so and so, I never met him. It was more like I wanted it to be busy for them. We all wanted it to be busy for them because they deserve.
Right.
And I think just for longevity, we needed it to be busy because it was I think arguably one of the first, in terms of lineup size. We had Hybrid as well. I think it was one of the largest. It's one of the largest lineups, maybe ever in Barcelona, bar a couple of your nights, and definitely the biggest night since COVID in terms of the lineups we had. Yeah. So in back of mind, like if this is quiet, there's no hope for the next 10 years and beyond. And fortunately, I was proved wrong. Yeah. I thought it was definitely gonna be quiet. I just thought it might be, we might just break even.
Yeah.
But I mean, we didn't smash out the park, but we got well over the numbers the club had asked us to get there, and just the dynamic as well. The local guys all did a really good warm up session. It was a full 8-hour session, or 9. I think it was nearly 9 hours of music entirely, and then I think just dynamic of going from Furney and them's Hybrid and.
There's a
musically onto finishing with Technical Itch was just beautiful. The only negative takeaways really is the moment you step into a big club. It's always complicated. These big clubs.
What's the size of this club?
It holds 550.
Okay.
Or 540 to be precise. It's a massive complex.
Yeah.
It's like an outside
I've
pool
never
area.
been there, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's my first time there as well. They got like an outside pool area, which they do stuff during the summer.
Is that does that count as part of the numbers of people, the outside area?
No, that's like a couple of thousand.
That's an extra.
Yeah.
So 500 is the venue.
Yeah, you got an outside venue downstairs, and then up in the middle level of the complex, you've got there's a club that they use for winter and out the summer season.
Yep.
And that holds about 500. And I think we were about 3, including plus ones and everyone in the end. I think we were well over 350 people. So, and that was off the back of sort of only being announced sort of 3 or 4 weeks before it, and it being Good Friday, and there being a million other things on, and the fact it's the forum isn't centre of town either. There was all these benefactors that didn't make me panic, but made me think.
No, they're definitely with my
going on past experiences.
Yeah.
And then, so the main positive was it just shows that there is the interest. It is the scene is alive. There's a lot of, like I was just saying earlier before we start this interview, like the public right now, it seems since COVID they are more hungry, and this party proved it. The only negatives for me is the difference of. It's like when we took Bilo from a small club to Razzmatazz. You're gonna have, it's different.
Yeah,
it's like simple to like having a product. You got a small product that's popular, and you want to size it up and make it go commercial. It doesn't feel the same, and
it's not intimate.
Yeah, it's not as intimate.
No.
But the club itself is beautiful. The sound in there is great. Aphonic Audio, shouts to you, the Function One guys, who I've been very blessed to just start doing a bit of work with. The sound there, it's about the sound. The sound's really good, and it was great, man.
There was some deep bass.
Yeah, the only negative, it's a big club and it's really popular, so we're waiting on the calendar to see when we have another date. But I think not too distant future. Towards the end of the summer, we're going to be back.
So the relationship with the venue stayed intact.
Yeah, it was like a job interview, and we proved our point.
Awesome.
Which was the main thing. I got to go and pop to the toilet quick.
Go ahead.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Very quick.
See, that's funny because when the show started, I literally said to Tom, as we were starting, I was like, "Damn, I forgot to go to the restroom," and he says, "Are you gonna be able to wait 2 hours?" And I said, "Well, if I have to go, I'll say something." And then he had to. So anyway, I don't even know why that's important or what do you call it? Interesting. I just want to send a shout out to MC Marina and Dev and a few people out there that might have been affected by this thing with Conrad. Very sad news. Very, very sad news. If you want to find his music, I'm sure you can go, because he was signed to major labels, so you can hear his music on Spotify, on Tidal, on you can find him even on SoundCloud. So search him out. You'll be able to find his stuff for sure. They even have a lot of his music on CD. So it shouldn't be that hard. And if you just go on social media, you can actually witness for yourself the love that's been thrown around right now for him. It's been a constant barrage of posts by all kinds of artists and fans. And I decided to wear this shirt today. Shout out to Steve, DJ Digital. My good friend Spirit also passed away a few years ago. Much love to him. These moments are rough, man, but they bring everyone together. Bring it a little closer. It brings everyone together. Not that it brings everyone together, because we're always together. The drum and bass community. It makes me
appreciate.
Yeah.
I tell you what, it did yesterday evening. I just felt, because we're kind of transition point now. Very soon, Cat's Talking Positives. Very soon we're going to be back. I think doing a couple of things a month. And it's just around the corner, and it's been a long, because of COVID, it's been a long wait, and hearing that yesterday, it just made me more determined in a positive way. It's around the corner. You got to appreciate everyone who's around you, and it's the same cliche everyone says, but it just shows you life is like that, and
it really is.
Never know, and that's what's been so upsetting for everyone. I'm sure with Conrad, his 52 in this modern age of medicine is very, very young, and so I think we're all. I was going to say, cool. Well, it's a shock and surprise. I mean, Fats, bless him, it's no less sad, but he was struggling, fighting with health for a long time. So it wasn't a shock. It was very, very sad. I cried a lot on that one, but it wasn't a shock. This has been a shock. I haven't really bawled yet on it because I'm still in shock.
Shock for me was Marcus Intellects and Spirit.
And Spirit. That Spirit was a mad shock.
Yeah.
Mad shock.
Well, Conrad was shocking to me. I did not expect that at all, man.
I don't know Conrad personally, but I just he sounds so eternal in his music.
Oh my God!
You think again, and from a selfish point of view, he was someone we would be looking to try and I wanted to book. Being an avid MC, I think that's someone we would have had over in the coming year. He would have definitely been on one of our flyers. So it's just a real sad.
This brings me to a good conversation, a good point. Going back to the story where he mentions about Paradox being an individual, a unique artist. So was Conrad. Yeah. So was Spirit. Yeah. And it does scare me. Okay, I want to put this out in the most fair, objective point of view.
Yeah.
I learned very, very early on in my life with my father, un saludo, papa, that art is not, you can't critique art because art comes from the heart or the spirit. And so it is an expression of that person. Whether you like it or not, that's on you. But it doesn't change the fact that it's art. So there's no way to say that art is better or worse. That's who they are.
It's about perception as well.
It really is. Sometimes you hear music and you're like, this is shit. And it just happened to be that you were not in the mood for it. Yeah. And then you hear it again a year later and you're like, this is really good.
I can't believe I slept in this tune.
Yeah. So from that point of view, I'm trying to be really fair to all of the artists involved in our scene. But a very unique thing about jungle drum and bass is that it was catapulted. It went from being something really underground to where we are now, thanks to the individuality in the artistry of each person. Yeah. You, just like early hip hop days, you couldn't copy. So Ray Keith was Ray Keith. Technical Itch is Technical Itch. Yeah. Bookem is Bookem. Like every artist was very much themselves. They didn't sound like someone else. And right now I'm still a working DJ, so I still go on Bandcamp and search out drum and bass every single week. And like 90% of the drum and bass sounds like it's the same artist making it. There's a loss of individuality. I understand that we all have our process, and that in the beginning of our careers as artists, we do copy people a lot because we're trying to learn. We're trying to reverse engineer what they did, even if it's happening subconsciously. You're learning how to get to finally get to your voice, right? So it is a process. But right now, I have to be honest, and I have to say, there isn't much individuality in our scene. There is shitloads of really good music. There's lots of really, really good drum and bass out there, and really good DJs as well, really good MCs, right? But yet, it's a lot of samey stuff, man. How do you feel about this thing that I just planted in front of you? Do you feel like the scene, like our music, not the scene, our music is losing some individuality?
I think there's been a long period of where drum bass was lost. That's why I got into B-Lo. We did B-Lo and I got into dubstep. Not just because dubstep's amazing music, but for me there was a period of time, kind of sort of past 2005, maybe 2006 onwards. That it was. I think it's a bit better now. I think it was worse back then. There was a time where it was just people, especially back in when vinyl was still selling a lot. And it became like House did in its later on days. It's like it was just about selling units. Yeah. And I think a lot of stuff sounded extremely samey.
Yeah.
And that's why I kind of got into dubstep. And now coming back, I think he's still got that a little bit. But I don't think as bad. But I do agree with you. I think especially in the drum and bass world, there's the kind of people trying to emulate the sort of deep melancholy thing, which is good, but that was a fashion for a little while. There's loads of people that sound the same, the production sound the same.
Yeah.
It was good stuff, palatable, minimal, and very palatable, but not. That's just one example. I think that happens throughout music, though, even in live music.
So you think this is just a phase?
I think it was worse before because of money. And we're sort of the end of the first round, and now we're in the sort of second round, Revival Jungle Drum and Bass. I think it still goes on a lot. I think you can't help it because when you got people like Paradox, Tech Itch, Bookham, Shy Effects, all these people that kind of give you, their blueprint is so good. It's hard to then, not that you're trying to better them, but it's hard to come up with something as good as an original as that. Do you know what I mean? It's not easy.
Yeah. No, I know. I mean, who did I see just recently? You know, DJ Ron?
Yeah.
He has a really good podcast on YouTube. You should check it out, guys.
Last one was DJ SS, I think.
Was it? No.
Was that one before?
It was just came out yesterday or before yesterday. It's escaping me now. Oh, Doc Scott.
Yes.
He interviews Doc Scott. And I don't know if it's Ron or Doc Scott who says it, but basically he was talking about following your honesty when you're being creative and trying really hard to do weird shit. Oh, yeah. He was talking about D-Bridge and how at a point, there was a certain point where Doc Scott was kind of like losing interest in drum and bass. And he was trying to re-fall in love with it. Yeah. And just by chance, D-Bridge decided to do this whole autonomic side of things with instrumental, really like half-step style of experimental drum and bass, which I remember when they first came out, there was a lot of questions about whether it would become something, and I was fine with that because I was like, doesn't matter. I love experimental drum and bass, so for me, great, that's awesome. But it actually blew up. It fucking blew up, and I remember that changed what that brought to drum and bass. I remember that, and Doc Scott was saying how that only happened because those few key artists, it wasn't that they were tired of what was out there. It was more like, yeah, but I really just want to put this thing out, even if no one likes it. Yeah. I just want to do this, and then it just it became a huge thing and inspired lots of artists to today. There's still a lot of people trying to do that sound, and that comes from the point of being honest of like, do I like what I'm making regardless of whether my peers understand it or not?
Yeah.
You know, that's a scary place to be.
It's very important though to think that way.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I know I make drum and bass, and sometimes I make a track and I'm like really proud of it. I'm like, wow, that actually sounds a lot like me. That sounds like me, even if it's not perfect. It's not like the best vision of who I am, but that sounds like me already. Yeah. And I'll show it to a few people, and they go, it's not really for me, man.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I always think, not that good you don't understand it, but yeah, that's because that really is me. If I make a tune that sounds like a normal drum and bass tune, that's normally the one that you gravitate towards and go, oh yeah, that's a cool tune. But when I make something that's actually more honest to me, I don't always get the best reactions. Yeah. So finding that threshold where you're like pushing the envelope towards you, but somehow making it digestible for others, that's
understandable.
That's where real artistry comes in.
Yeah, trying to make people understand what you're doing within that song. The most exciting for me, I mean, I don't do so much. I've done more as an MC. I've done way more recording than I have actual song production. But for me, it's the same feeling. If some of those tracks I did with 0801 and the jazz hip hop band, when I play that track to someone for the first time, it's about them being able to turn around and going, oh, you meant to say that in that context and and I totally get it. That is the hardest part. I think that's the art of keeping it within, say you're doing a genre, keeping it within, I don't like to say rules, but keeping with the parameters of that genre, but while doing something in the middle of it that's you, that people can understand and go, oh, that's a different idea and formula. Oh, yeah. And that's the gold dust that everyone's trying to keep up with, I think.
Are you a big hip-hop fan?
Massive. I mean, more early on because I just get to drum and bass jungle and dubstep. I spend more time digging than I do.
So who would you say is your favorite MC in jungle drum and bass?
Ooh.
If you had to pick one.
That's a hard one, you know. Because there's arguably 5 or 6, 7 that are equally, for their own different style, the best and my favorite.
Give me one, man. Give me one right now.
Pick one. Early influences, I'd have to say Moose.
Yeah.
I first heard him.
Very humble.
Yeah, and timing.
Hardworking.
Less is more in terms of his delivery. I mean, not
very hardworking.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's constantly working out there.
He still is now.
Yeah.
He's an amazing guy.
Yeah.
And his age as well. Again, not going into it because it's rude. But he's you know.
I don't think it's rude, Tom.
I'm saying I'm impressed by him. He's up there age-wise.
That's the point I'm making.
Still showing the kids how it's done.
Yeah.
He's an amazing guy.
Yeah. Most of my icons are older than me.
Yeah.
And age is, to me, it's like we kind of need to look at it differently, man.
Yeah.
You know, not that we need to treat like the older people better.
Yeah.
I'm saying that hip hop is learning that lesson right now. You know, people like Nas and Jay-Z starting to make hip hop for old people.
Yeah.
For a long time, it was like, oh no, old people can't rap.
We've got to do the latest
stuff. What are you talking about?
What?
Rap is in the brain, not in the fucking physique of the person. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I feel like with jungle drum and bass, it's the same. House music, techno music, they respect their elders just like their youth and up and coming artists. Like that's what I feel like we need to do in our scene too. Is like age is nothing. Experience
is what it's
about.
Yeah.
You know.
No, going back to Moose, that's the thing that really blew me away was because I'd heard him a little bit on the rave tapes and stuff at college.
Right.
But then he did it's a really famous Stanton Warrior mix that he did emceeing with him, presenting the mix. And at the time, breaks was quite new. Yeah. And it was just the way he fitted in. I'd heard him doing drum bass, and all of a sudden he's just doing breaks. And again, just sounded if he'd been doing a breaks MC for the last 20 years. The way he slotted in and but I won't say he's the best MC because there's so many. But I think for versatility and touch and feeling.
I didn't say best.
Yeah.
I said
for versatility, touch and feeling,
I'd say Moose.
Yeah.
Is there a best MC?
Oh.
No, there's no best MC.
It's hard to say because people like Stevie Hyper died early. He could have been. He already was, but
but back to what I said before, man. Art can't be critiqued that way.
You can't really.
There's no best.
Measure it. It's not measurable.
Okay, so what about in hip hop? Give me a top 3. And why?
Q-Tip and Fife. Just that whole coming together and the whole feeling, energy.
So you
message,
pick them together,
tone.
Not separate.
I could pick them separately, but they were introduced to me together.
Right, of course.
And it was also their
chemistry.
Their chemistry together was just like
no. It's unstoppable.
Insane. Cypress Hill.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm surprised. I'm really surprised.
Yeah.
Wow.
I like the rawness.
I didn't expect that.
I like their rawness.
Yeah, no, they're very raw.
And that kind of when I'm doing rawness in my emceeing, that influence comes from stuff like that. Rage Against Machines, Cypress Hill. The
angst.
Yeah, it's the bass culture, but it's the angst side of it, like that.
Yeah.
The political, angry for a reason side of it.
Where does this anger come from you?
I wouldn't say anger.
Because I've always noticed this like...
drive.
Angst.
It comes from... I don't know, everyone has their own journey. But I feel in some ways quite awakened to energy and just... I think we know what's right, we know what's wrong. Every human being has that within them. And I think we've been grown up, and especially representing music during an age where it's getting politically things have gotten crazier and crazier, and if anything, I've just turned that into, that's always been my sort of, and music speaks volumes, and music for me, time and time again, proves the point. So that's what keeps me striving, is because my truth is through music. Even if I'm just DJing, just who I'm showing, it's not my own productions, but who I'm showing, what I'm trying to show to people. These are truths of real people, and this is real truth, and that's what I think that keeps us from being MK Ultra or too brain programmed, or is real creativity and reality of real expression. And I think a lot of that comes, you've got to have a bit of rough for that. You've got to have a bit of fire in your belly, because if you haven't, then it just sounds
So you
weak.
think you were naturally born with that?
Yes and no. I think I was a bit. I was one of these kids. I was a dreamer. I was a little bit special in like mental, but not in like a special way. Just I was a bit dyslexic and stuff. I was just a slightly different kid, you know.
You were dyslexic?
Yeah.
You still are to this day?
Huh?
You're still
I think
dyslexic?
so. Yeah. A
Really?
little bit. Not majorly.
How does that manifest? I've never noticed that from you.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because a lot of dyslexic people, I've had a few friends that are dyslexic, and they'll put like, you know, sometimes by, you know, when they're not really controlling it well, they'll say a word like first instead of second when they're talking.
I don't know. It's like that. My problem was also concentration. I was diagnosed with concentration problems, which I guess they equal ADHD.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was always, I can remember from very young. My parents split when I was quite young.
Oh, okay.
And once they in terms of us as kids, they did a very good professional separation. It didn't fuck us up too much, me and my sister, in that sense. But more of what you're saying of like the only real argument was always over money. The only time was stress was arguing about, you know,
right,
who's
reality,
paying what, and
day-to-day reality.
Yeah. And I think that really
that affected you.
That affected me in this. The positive from that was from an early age I started to think money's important. That obviously it's all around us. You can't deny it.
So what you're saying is that word became kind of like what you live by, which is fairness.
Yeah.
Right. That became kind of like one of your flags.
Yeah. A lot of my family got screwed over with inheritance. All across my family, there's crazy stories about.
So a lot of trauma with economics.
Yeah. Not so much trauma with economics, physically or anything emotionally. Just more. I think money controlled my father. I think he worshipped it too much. My father, most people came from nothing, so he always felt that he had to.
Yeah.
Make sure he had everything.
Yep.
I think he was a bit of work. He was a bit of a Jack the Lad, but he was also a workaholic.
Mm-hmm.
And my mum as well. She was supposed to inherit a lot of money from her parents, and that went wrong just because that's a long story. Nothing to do with my mum's fault, or my grandfather's fault. It went wrong, and I can just remember the stress I could see that causing, understandably. And I just made me always think that there's more to life than just money and having a career, and because some people in my life had worked all their life and had a lot of money, and then they lost it or got taken away from them, and just situations like that. So I can think even back to being sort of 12, even for my early teens, wanting to find more of a spiritual path rather than just taking it for what it was.
Yeah, but ever since I've known you, you've always been a person who's said to me, whispered in my ear, "That's not fair. This is fair." That's, you've always been a person. You should have this. That's not right that they're doing this to you. Like, that's not something people tend to say. Like, you know what I mean? That's not something that comes up a lot in some people's way of talking. But with you, I've always known for you to be like that.
Yeah. I think in some cases, honesty. I think honesty is the best policy in 85% of cases. There's the 15% of extreme circumstances.
Right.
But generally...
Right. So, okay.
Seeing it and saying it how it is.
So let's go back to that list of hip-hop MCs.
Yes.
You said Fife and...
Q-Tip.
Cute. Who else?
KRS-One. Without a doubt.
Wow.
Step into... all of that. That was just a vocal, not even him. KRS-One, hip hop at the time. Rodney P. Growing up.
Oh, okay. You're going into your head about UK MCs.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to things that come to mind. Him, with Skits and Rodney P.
Mm-hmm.
Skits the DJ a lot because he was playing good US and good UK hip hop together. He was a big influence for me as a DJ. Daddy Skits. There's so many hip hop greats that I've been American hip hop greats. Most of my favorite MCs are 90s American hip hop artists, I'd say. Yeah. Golden
era.
Public Enemy.
I guess golden era.
Chuck D.
Is 80s golden era or 90s?
I'd say half of 80s and the first half of 90s. That sort of 10 between the two decades is like.
Yeah, you can't fuck with that.
No.
Mm-mm.
Incredible eras. Incredible times of music.
What do you think of hip hop now?
Ooh. You know what? It's kind of funny at the moment because I feel states and the UK have exchanged music. It's like at the moment states has taken on dubstep 140 at the moment, and they're doing there's some amazing artists right now in 140 dubstep, and hip hop in the UK. Labels like High Focus, people like the 4 Hours.
I don't know them.
They've taken a lot of what's going on in the UK hip hop right now. It's just what US was doing in the 90s, but again with just better modern production, different slang, and the only thing different UK hip hop is more the ragga flow is always there, the more the ragga imprint.
Yeah.
But other than that, for me, I would say right now UK is doing US 90s hip hop.
Yep.
And doing it really well.
What is your
in terms of sound?
What is your take on grime?
It has been for a little while. What's my take on what? Sorry?
Grime.
I think it's brilliant. I think the negativity, there's always a negative element though. I mean, now it's kind of been perceived as drill. I mean, drill for me is really negative. I don't really get that.
Yeah.
And that's nothing to do with becoming middle-aged. I never really did get that at all. I can understand, white privilege. I'm not from as bad a background, but I know people who've been from those backgrounds. I've grown up with people from those backgrounds, and they've made choices not to be that way. They might listen to grime and stuff, but they're not. Yeah. I just don't. I mean, aside from grime, going back to US hip hop, for me that really ruined US hip hop. The whole gangster rap era became so negative. How many people can I kill at once? How many women am I shagging at once? How much can I put women down? It's all about what I'm wearing.
I think you're going back to your what's right.
Yeah, and the same with grime. I think there's some horrible places, really hard places to grow up in London. Like I said, I never grew up there, but I rolled through some of them and experienced life through some of those areas growing up.
When is the last time you've been?
London.
Yeah. Is that where you grew up?
Christmas.
Where did you grow up in the UK?
About a year ago. Huh?
Where did you grow up in the UK?
Originally my dad had a flat in London, lived in Clapham. So when I was born, I can't remember. my dad, I spent from sort of 5 years old to about 12. My dad had a place in Clapham in London. So I would go between my mum and my dad split when I was very young. So I'd go and see, like I said, I'm not too screwed up by it. I can talk about it.
How old were you?
I'm getting too tearful because they were very good about.
How old were you when they split?
I must be like 1 or 2.
Oh, so you were not even aware.
Yeah, I was lucky in that sense. And they were always very
Your sister is older than you?
Yeah, 18 months.
Oh, so just 2 years older.
Yeah. So no, I was very lucky in the sense that they were cool with that. So I had the best of both worlds. My dad lived in London. And then when my folks split, my mum moved out just the other side of M25 to sort of commute town. Again, very close to London still, so I could still be close to my dad and stuff. And early memories of just sort of hanging out with my dad when I used to go to see him at places like Crystal Palace, around those kind of areas. Croydon a bit. My mum went to art college there. We're kind of South East London affiliated family, I'd say. Originally.
Was there a lot of music at home?
Yes. On all sides, really. Luckily, from three parent influences. My mum just was a real music fan with good taste. So I was brought up from her from her side, I would say the David Bowie,
Okay.
the Rolling Stones, the Beatles,
Yeah.
that kind of side. And then my dad was really into like current music, so I had a really good, because it was back then. I'm talking about again 80s to early 90s. Pop music was called popular music because some of it was really good.
It is.
So my dad was really into current music. So through him,
Yeah.
I got to learn a lot of good artists, white and black, and stuff growing up.
Right.
Just because he was into music and there was always music
Yep.
playing in the house. Then on the other hand, my stepdad, my mum's husband,
Yep.
he was a real jazz head.
Oh, okay.
So I grew up from as young as I can remember on the greats like Jimmy Smith, Miles Davis,
yeah.
all those kinds of guys.
Yeah.
So I had really lucky from that.
What
sense.
was the
I had
first?
3 really good influential adults who were into really good music
Yeah.
from a very early age.
Yeah. And your sister? Does she listen to music at all?
My sister sings. She
Oh,
can
wow.
play ukulele.
Wow.
She's very talented, my sister.
Did you do any
Multi-talented.
learning instruments?
Yes, in school I learnt guitar, piano, drums, double bass and singing.
Wow.
So I kind of from
Crazy.
the start
It's a lot.
knew that
Wow.
music was a thing.
And
for
what
me.
was? Do you remember what the first musical item you purchased?
musical item? What, as an instrument or?
I don't know. It could be a CD. It could be a record. It could be a poster of your favorite pop group.
My first ever, the one I remember the most out of all the 2 7-inches I bought, I think got to be De La Soul.
Oh wow! What happened to that?
Oh, it's a little 7. I've played it while we've had it. I think I've got it somewhere. It is in my vinyl collection still, but it's so old. It's been played a lot.
Nice.
Had some
Plus
flute,
it's 7 inches.
had some flute instrumental on the B side, and then I can't remember which track it was from De La Soul. Maybe it's 3, the magic number, I think. And then I had a Beastie Boys, Ill Communication. Or no, earlier than that, one of the earlier songs, I think, I can't remember which. But those were the first sort of vinyls I remember having that they did that were really good. And then I got more into then I became a DJ and I got into more dance music. Because back then we bought vinyl without being a DJ because obviously our parents had a record player and it was all about buying vinyl.
Do you remember the first
DJing
time hearing drum and bass or jungle?
I think it was it's a number of experiences over a kind of year that really pulled me towards it. It's funny. I started DJing 16 in sort of funky house, groove house labels.
What year was that? Because I don't have the numbers in my head.
I was born in 78.
You were born in 78.
Yeah.
So you're a year younger than me?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So 78, I would have been. What year would it been? 78, 88 plus 6. 94.
94.
Yeah.
Proper jungle. That was dark times right there. That was like the raga times.
Yeah. Through rave really.
Yeah. Do you remember your first rave experience?
Oh God, there's so many. So long ago.
It all blends in, right?
Yeah, man.
Did you do a lot of drugs back then?
Yes and no.
Okay.
When I first, the earlier memories, the first experience are more clear because I was 17, 18 and I was too young, I'm happy to say, to be taking loads of drugs. You're never good to be taking loads of drugs, whatever age you are. But
there is something to say about experimenting with drugs when you're a teenager. I think that's acceptable.
Yeah.
We're not talking about abusing.
Yeah, I'm lucky I didn't get heavily into the ecstasy honeymoon didn't really hit till 1920s, which is better because at least my brain had.
Well, by that time, by 94, ecstasy was kind of on its downhill. Like it was dark. People weren't doing as much ecstasy anymore. Yeah. I mean, I think it was definitely part of the scene. But it wasn't like 1991, 92. Well, that was heavily.
94 I think it was 94 that the ecstasy scene moved into the clubs. Mm-hmm. And then I think obviously cocaine took over. Yeah. And that changed the vibe everywhere.
Yeah.
In all genres of dance music.
Yeah. For good and bad.
Yeah.
The parties were better. I
can remember more.
But there was
more guys fighting.
A lot more violence. And, yeah. I don't know what my favorite drug is. I mean, I don't take drugs, but I'm saying as far as the club experience.
Yeah,
because I've gone through them all, and I'm trying to remember back, there's always something positive to take out of it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so
I mean, back then I caught the end. I would say I started getting into music around about 94, 95. You obviously things like Prodigy was a massive influence for me.
yeah,
And then I went to private school for like 3 years.
okay,
And then when my father passed, I couldn't afford to stay at private school.
right.
So I went to state college, which was the best thing ever.
Your father died.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Just before I turned 14.
How was that experience for you? I mean, I'm not saying don't look back to yourself as that age.
Yeah.
I'm talking about now. Like, how has that shaped you as a person?
It's a tricky one because he was a very good person in some ways, but a very naughty person in others. I mean, he never did anything awful or evil to anyone. I just mean in terms of how he conducted his relationships and things like that. But on the other hand, he was a person who'd come from real hardship and really worked really hard.
Yeah.
The irony is, I think, he died from heart disease.
Okay.
Mainly from not looking after himself.
Yeah.
Not like a mad drug habit or anything, just food, alcohol.
Yeah, just physique.
Smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
He had a triple heart bypass, was told to fix up and he didn't. You know, one of those ones.
Oh,
but the thing for him is...
What was his name?
Ian. Yeah. The thing for him was he was stressing a lot to try and give me a life he never had.
Right.
And I think, ironically, in a way, that was almost became a contributor towards his death.
Yeah.
Just the level of stress of that, I think.
Right, yeah.
So the positives from the negative takeaway from that
so he just sounds like an old school classic man.
Yeah, he was.
Right.
In that sense. He was a charmer. He could hold a room. He was very funny. He one of these people who had been a stand-up comedian. My mum was drawn to him originally because he was,
How old was he when he passed?
46.
Oh, I'm 46 now.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's
the positive
so
from the negative was taught to him was, to I don't know what it taught me in terms of striving not to.
Well, you're a hard worker.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a hard worker if it's something I want to do. If something I don't want to do, I'm terrible. I think a lot of people are like that. Yeah. But no. What it taught me was to go for what really makes you happy, because the things that killed me in the end was he was stressing over things I don't think really made him happy. He had dreams of being a singer or something one day, and all these things that never came to fruition. I think he really pushed himself towards. He was a very successful man, but that success came with a lot of stress and problems.
What is your jumping around now, because we're heading towards the end of the show.
Oh, really?
1:52, so we have another half an hour maybe, if we're lucky. When this gets close to 2 hours, I will pull up the screen just to see when the camera changes, because that means that camera will have died, and that's when we say bye. Yeah. Just to let you know. But it's not there yet, so I don't want to keep looking at us here. Yeah. But it's important to know your past in that sense. That's why I wanted to talk about it, because I didn't even think about asking you, but once it came up, I was like, yeah, let's go for it, because it's, it describes the person.
It shapes them
thoroughly, who they are. Parents shape us whether they're part of our lives or not. Yeah. So, I think it's important to have that discussion. But now back to the music. How do you feel about, and I want you to be honest, I'm going to pressure you on that. How do you feel about the drum and bass scene in Barcelona right now?
I feel it's a time. It's quite divided, not in the sense of, because when I first started, like I said, I first came in, there was Skyfunk, Dubstep, and this other collective. These three hate each other. There's even stories of one collective going into one other party's night and there being a punch.
We don't have to talk about that stuff.
So that's cool, because none of that, and we're all in contact and we see each other out. And what is healthy is actually everyone. There's no bad mouthing or backstabbing. Everyone's getting on well. But I do feel that the musical quality. I feel I feel it's missing out on a lot in terms of some of the nights that are running at the moment don't cover enough spectrum of the music.
But is that a bad thing?
Yeah, it depends. Depends what kind of sound they're pushing. For me, it's like every music. There's a kind of on top layer of very obvious producers and stuff like that. That are almost poppy. People like Subfocus, Wilkinson, these kind of things that for me great. Full respect to them. They've worked very hard.
Yep.
They've released a lot of music to get where they are.
That's their voice.
That's their voice. But for me, as a jungle drum and bass head or whatever, it's not. I think if I'm gonna be blunt, to put it into really blunt language, it's not black enough here. Does that make any sense?
I understand you.
Music that's played, producers that are pushed, artists that are booked.
The influence is in the music.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying.
Because for me, even if you want to take drum and bass purely and take the jungle out the title, even the good drum and bass still has a good and the biggest art history have a good balance of cultures. For me, drum and bass jungle and the hardcore rave scene was all about that, and that's why it was so successful. It was about people coming together outside of the system and saying, wow, why have we been kept apart? This part about your culture is really interesting, and this part about your culture is really interesting. Wow, if we amalgamate these cultures a bit, like for me, the white side was the techno side of it, and the knowledge of the machinery and stuff, and then you had the black side of it, which was the heart and the
soul.
Yeah, and the soul, and it's the combination of those two things. So the moment you go to one too much towards one side, just as much as really heavy ragga jungle, I don't like because it's not.
So is there a positive side to their lacking that kind of soul?
It's positive for us because it leaves the door wide open. Still, it means, I would say, what you were doing with jungle and what we're doing with subconscious. I say it's similar in the fact we're trying to give people more of the broad spectrum of good music within the genre. So for the positive for me is it makes my job easier because it means there's less competition of people doing good music. In that sense, what I feel is good music that I'm having to fight against. Yeah. So it's positive in that sense. I think it's positive because you have to. One positive thing from the nights themselves is you need to get people in to the music, and I think it can be a backdoor into the better stuff. Obviously, sometimes you hear an obvious commercial drum and bass tune, and you go to a drum and bass event for the first time, one of these events, and you go, I like drum and bass. Then you start to dig, and then you get into the better name. So it still has a positive effect on a surface level, but from a music consumer point of view, I don't think it has much. But then that depends if you're a head and a digger. If you're a head, we're a small percentage. You know, us heads and diggers and DJs, we're like that. The public's like that much. Yeah. So, you know, from that point of view, I don't think the public care that much.
No. And from my perspective, they shouldn't. I think they should listen to their heart. I like this. Yeah. That's it. That's all that matters. Yeah. If you don't like it, don't go. You know? I don't know. We have different perspectives on that, but I did want to hear yours. Yeah. Where do you think it's going to go?
I think what worries me, and I say this to all the local artists, promoters, DJs, not as a warning, but just as a message, and I think it's important. Bass culture is massive. It's growing. It was already. I mean, it's growing so quickly. And when I say bass culture, I mean everything from hip hop to grime to jungle to groove house to the whole spectrum. It's a very, very fast growing industry, and I think we need to be careful because the tourists, the punters, and our local public are really into all kinds of music. And if we don't do it properly here, it's only going to be another year or two. It was about to happen before COVID, and then COVID slowed it down. But until a big organisation comes in, there's nothing to do with Barcelona or anyone here, and we'll just wipe the floor because I'll just go, well, hang on, public want this, and this, so I'm going to put on this, and this, and your little party with whoever you thought was relevant, who's actually irrelevant, won't mean we'll just be by the by. And that's not a warning to anyone. I think that applies to everybody, and that always comes back to the thing of being, if going to be a local scene, there has to be a sense of unity. I don't just mean unity as in, I'll be friends with you and because you're doing drum and bass. unity as in, without trying to be too snobby about it, finding out who the true players are and the key players, and being in contact as a group of people, not just as a night, in terms of thinking forward to the future, and that's how to. I think it's important that we keep doing that. So we make it our own before other people come in, just people with big money and big ideas, and take it from us.
Okay, so back to your project, Subconscious. I know there was a time when you, not you, but a few people left the group.
Yeah.
Are you open to talk about why those people left?
Totally.
What happened? I mean, short form, not long form.
Yeah, short form. COVID.
Misunderstandings.
Not a lot, really. No, not from our side, and not from my side. I'm not going to mention names. I think that there's only two. Well, the good news is now we're all pretty much.
I was going to get to that, but I want to hear first why there was this split.
I think all that happened was, I think when you have a big group of people.
Yep.
And you start something up. I had this experience with 001.
Yep.
When you start off, everyone puts in how they should.
Yeah.
Starts to get successful.
Yep.
And it's not. I'm not even saying lazy or whatever, but people naturally start to back off.
Yep.
In terms of having, not even. I'm not talking about work. I mean, in terms of having a role, an opinion or an input.
Yeah.
Because it's just running, and I think COVID made this 3-year time scale where we lost. I mean, we said pre-COVID, we were pretty much running a group of 9 people. And I can remember at the time we were moaning, because it's hard when you're dealing with 9 personalities.
Yeah.
But now looking back on it, it was working. Do you know what I mean? And I think the trouble with COVID is we had to start again, really, in terms of in a public format and being out in public. And over COVID, a few of us really kept it going. And nothing happened. We came back from COVID, and a couple of people hadn't been in the picture, hadn't been around, hadn't been in contact. At the start of COVID, I made a real effort to contact and reach out to other people. We kind of used Subconscious and the streaming during that time, because here in Spain we were on lockdown, as you know. It was serious.
Yeah, people don't know how bad it was.
Science fiction movie, bro.
Yeah.
And we really used. I used that in a selfish sense, because it meant I had a community. I had once a week I was allowed to go to someone's house. We weren't allowed to move. We were locked down into areas, so it gave us an excuse to be able to go and see people and just keep our mental well-being well. And so at the start of COVID, I was doing that a lot. But then, as naturally do, everyone went through their own problems with COVID. It's such a big experience and trauma, and that kind of people stopped being in contact so much. And obviously, I got a bit tired of trying to keep everyone in the loop, as they say. And nothing. I think just a bit of time passed. We came back out of COVID. Things were very slow getting restarted. And obviously, over 4 years, a lot of time has passed.
Yep.
A lot of things have been done.
Yep.
And I think because the majority of the group weren't in contact so much, it just became more as we had established it as a group, as a brand and a sound, which is what it is. That's what we were talking about earlier. Subconscious stands for Jungle Drum and Bass. It says it in our logo.
Yeah.
Out to the guys, stop sending me Euro demos if you want a gig. No, and yeah, so it was really that. And I think all that happened, a couple of people for some reason, thought that they weren't involved anymore and felt they didn't have any control. And rather than ringing up after being sort of AWOL for, one or two of them, most people were still in contact, but those one or two were kind of AWOL for a long time. And we even had a couple of big people over, and they didn't turn up for their gig, and then they weren't in contact. And then, we brought one big person, and the person in question had brought us this big contact. We didn't put them on just because they hadn't been in contact for a long time, and I hadn't been able to get hold of them. And it wasn't so much you're out kind of thing. It was more like to get their attention. Let's just put this flyer up for now like this, because it was ages before the event, and see if we can get in some contact and some reaction. Unfortunately, that person took it as a very personal thing, and rather than a few people that started this kind of bad feeling, rather than sort of saying to us, thank you so much for keeping it alive for the last 4 or 5 years. Sorry I've been absent. Where can I plug back in? I think then that's all that needed to be said. And for some reason, a lot of people started, rather than starting on that angle, they started more on like, what are you doing? Why have you taken it away from us? Who's this? Why are we inviting these people? So it got a bit like, well, where have you been? And we're human beings. As an entity, as a product, had to keep going. We've kept it going. But I think the positive from that now is, well, 80% of us are back together anyway.
Yeah.
And we're all talking. The only reason why you don't see the massive big lineups again of us all together is the thing was, there was a lot of stress between people in the group over nothing, because there's this period of time where we've had no, I hate to admit it, because of COVID and stuff, we haven't had a big venue and anything really operational for a long, long time. Yeah. So these guys are getting upset about something that's not even really going on. So I think it was just, again, I don't want to blame all on it, but again, COVID and time and falling out of communication.
I mean, the reason I ask
was the cause
is
of that
because
kind of
it's to, in a simple way, express to the people watching what it is like, not only to work with other people, but work with artists, and also working together with a vision, you know, in a city where you're basically working against the flow of how the city is. I know, as a promoter myself, when I was doing events, I know what I had to fight against in Barcelona to do what we did. So that's kind of, it's a good way of presenting the hard work that's behind the scenes, the misunderstandings, the communication or the lack of the communication, how important friendship is, how important hard work is, or creativity, luck, and how ultimately, I think, without the basic instinct of wanting to put something together, to produce something, to create community under the banner of this music, is a huge effort in a city where they don't help us economically. If anything, they rob us. You know, like it's in other cities. They're funded by the city or the state to do events.
Scheme, arts,
we don't have that here.
Donations and stuff.
Here it's all from our pocket.
You
know, and people don't understand that, especially the DJs from outside who want to come here and play, and they think it's easy. And then there's the cultural aspect. You know, a lot of people not understanding what our music is. I think today we're much better than we were when I first arrived in 2004. I think there's definitely more of an acceptance to all different styles of DJs and MCs and kinds of musics and stuff.
Finally.
I'm excited because I feel like it's a new page, and it's not the first time that I've been involved in a scene where the page has turned and there's been a death and then there's a rebirth. You know, and I think we're in the middle of that rebirth.
I mean, for me, until I go back to subconscious and what's happened with that, I think really the learning comes out. Like I said, I was in a band of 18 people. And the thing is, I think, to be honest with you, even more so in the DJ world, because you haven't got loads of different musicians and different criteria and different kind of vocalists to think about. But it's the same way in a sense that once the product's running, no one does have to really do anything else apart from come out and put their art in and get paid a fair amount of money for it. So all it did teach us is actually, it's more about a sound brand. If you want to put it into business jargon, you know, it's about branding your sound. And I think going forward for subconscious, I think you're going to find 89% of the same familiar faces playing that were from pre-COVID. It's just, we're not going to be the same 8 people on every part anymore, because I think every project gets to a point where you've got to kind of, you know, especially with local, you've got to start bringing, it's just time. There's a whole load of, like, the subgenre of kids below us now who, now we're in our 30s, 40s, there's the kids below us now in their 20s, early 30s. There's not a lot, but there's some good ones coming through, and they need a look in now. We need to expand with them. So I think now, for me, most of the founding fathers will still be affiliated and feel involved and moving forward. But I think moving forward, we'll want to have the scope just to, you know, include more different up and coming good artists, basically, for the future. And I think just quickly on a footnote, I'm plugging now, but this is a good thing about Big Kharma. Out to Moana on that one as well. Just that dubstep, it's like it felt like it did for me back with Bilo. It was new. There's no politics. It's a completely fresh page.
Yeah.
There's some obvious artists. We're pretty much, we've been using Garage at the moment because it's not a major venue, but we've been using it to try people out. We're getting to the point now we have a natural feeling of artists like yourselves and Prime Bass Sound, a few others that naturally have what it is that is dubstep, and I think that's going to be another exciting new page. So if we can just get over, I think we are over the venue problem. Now it's just a problem of calendars. People are busy, things are getting busy. So but this is a good sign. So I think the future is good for both Subconscious and Big Kharma, hopefully.
There you go. All right, man, we're at the end of the show.
We should podcast with this guy first soon because
yes,
we have history.
I think we might actually record today. So like the show, share the show, subscribe to the show. I need it. If you want to support me, you know what to do. I will put links for everything on his show involved with MC Stormy in the description of the show. If you guys want to look him up, if you want to book him, if you want to have a chat with him, if you want advice from him, he has a lot of experience. He's open to talk to you. And by the way, you can look back at all the old shows. YouTube does this weird fucked up thing where like they need a number of shows from you before all the links that you add in the description are actually clickable. It's like they erase the clickable part of it. It's there written, but you can't click into it and take you to the page. Now I have enough shows that they've allowed me to be able to click into the fucking links. It's stupid, but anyway. So now
we're mid-age. We're getting used to it. I'm starting to get my head around it.
You can go back to the old shows. That's what I'm saying. If you liked an artist that I interviewed and you want information from them and the links are there, you can now click on them. So his links will obviously be there. Big shout out to Morwena. I will get you in here soon. Tom, thank you so much.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much. It's nice for us because me and this guy have been. If anyone doesn't know out there, I don't take too much credit, but we are some of the originated pushers of jungle drum bass here for many years. So it's nice to be able to sit down and have a conversation with this guy.
A lot of hard work.
Yeah,
a lot of love for the music.
Yeah, for a long time.
And that's why we do it, man.
Yeah,
that's why we do it, and we're gonna keep doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Watch out, kids.
Last words for the public.
Like I sign off most of my shows, peace, love, jungle drum and bass. Look after each other.
Beautiful. Thank you, man.
Thank you.